My name is Christian Basel. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With web show, this is the legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. My name is Christian Basel. I am the host and the driver of the TARDIS here. And with me, we have some wonderful people. We're going to be reviewing the series ender of series 12, right? Yeah, series 12, yeah. The Timeless Children. And you know what? I've been saying this wrong, so forgive me. If you've been seeing me on the Facebook page, I've been writing the Timeless Child, the Timeless Child. It's the Timeless Children episode. So, same difference, yeah. But I want to make sure I get the titles right there.
Yeah.
With me today are the lovely and artistic director of our show, Melanie Dean. How you doing, Melanie?
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Awesome there. And we have from Husbands Talking, more or less. You got to check out their radio show. They're actually going to be recording right after ours. We have Kevo Risse. Got to check him out on Instagram. He is Kid Riot Comics, right? Did I get that right?
Kid Riot Comics.
Kid Riot Comics there. Please check out his show. Kevo, just tell them where they could find Kid Riot Comics.
KidRiotComics.com. It's that easy. We make it real easy for you to find us.
And check it out over here. And including with our little review today is Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. How you doing there, Dr. Freedom?
Oh, hanging in there. How's everybody out there doing tonight?
Awesome. And folks, if you are just joining us on the YouTube channel, we ask, as always, please let your friends know to join us, subscribe, and hit that notification bell at the bottom so you can get all the updates, including any of our live chat feeds that we have when we premiere our YouTube videos, so that you can talk to us when our episode premieres on the YouTube channel. But today we're going to be reviewing The Timeless Children, the last episode of Series 12. And the talk of the town of the social media. But first, before we begin that, we're going to be doing the Who Knew News with Brian Burress. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. First up on the Who Knew News tonight, we have former Doctor Who showrunners, I almost said Arsel. I don't know why. Russell T. Davies and Stephen Moffat. You remember those guys. Will each participate in a program at the Radio Times Television Festival at the BFI South Bank on Saturday, April 18th and Sunday, April 19th, respectively. So the two former showrunners will be there for doing this great festival. You know, maybe you want to check it out if you're in that area around London town or around there, or maybe we'll get some footage out of it later. But it's still interesting that, they're bringing these two back to do this festival. All right, next up. Now, this is one that's been driving people crazy. Over on The Mirror. Now, if this had been any other writer than the lady who presented, which is Nicola Methvin, apparently she's alleging that Bradley Walsh will be quitting Doctor Who after this year's Christmas special. Now, we all know that Towson Cole has already lined up work for next year. He's already gotten another series, which will be on over on AMC, if memory serves.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting because, Bradley did suffer, a back injury this year. So it could be true that maybe he's doing this just to ease off a little bit, because he did have to take it easy for filming later on this year. But you never know. It says, according to this, though, after the special Revolution of the Daleks, according to this, him and Towson Cole will probably be leaving, and they're saying Yaz is staying. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Yaz should hang around for another year, guys, or?
I think if any of them are going to, probably her, but I'd also maybe like a fresh slate too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kind of feel the same way. We've come on 2 years with the fam. I think, maybe it's time to let them go back to Sheffield, bring in some fresh faces, kind of like they did with Bill after we had Clara for a couple of years, because companions, tend to grow and then we let them move on. And I'm hoping that's what they're going to do here if this is true. Okay, next up.
Well, wait a minute. First of all, what could Yaz do that she hasn't done already in the past 2 series? I mean, where would it go? It's like Clara, and like at some point it was like, wait a minute, I think you're way overstaying your stay. I don't know what story you can go on. And then when they gave her a boyfriend, I'm like, oh, it just made things worse. I love the guy who played Danny Pink, whose name I can't remember, but I meant
Sam Anderson, I think.
Sam Anderson. Samuel?
Yeah, Samuel Anderson, if I remember.
Yes, I think you're right. I think for what it was worth, he did an excellent job playing Danny Pink, but I think the scripting and the relationship between him and Clara just didn't work. I think it should have just been the Doctor and Clara the whole time there. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the Yaz thing either, because from what I read, I think Mandip Gill mentioned something about a possible movie project. So, we don't know. We're going to have to see where the chips land, see who's staying, who's going. But it would explain why they filmed this special so early compared to other ones. Because Toss and Cole immediately appeared at Chicago TARDIS this last year. So I'm wondering if they went ahead and filmed the special, so this way they didn't have to sign them on to another contract to come back and film it. They just filmed it all at once that way.
Now, I noticed you said the word Christmas special. Is that confirmed, or are we still toying with the idea it's festive special right now?
Now, according to the latest from Chris Chibnall, it could be Christmas Day or it could be New Year's Day. They're not sure on that. That's not confirmed for Christmas as yet. I am hoping they do go back to Christmas, though.
Do both. Do both. Two-parter. Do both.
Why not?
Just like they did with The End of Time. Do both.
That'd be fun.
All right, next up. Well, Doctor Who Escape Room is coming to Norwich, it turns out. Sci-fi fans are in for a treat as a Doctor Who-themed escape room is going to be opening in the city where players will need to defeat a Dalek to survive. Now, this escape room thing has really taken off. Have you ever noticed that all these different cities have these different themed, rooms you got to escape from by following different little clues and things like that? But I guess they're going to pitch you up against a Dalek who's controlling the circumstances in this case. I don't know, guys. You think you could dig into that?
I could. I love escape rooms.
Honestly,
I really do.
One of those. Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see it. What about you, Christian?
I love it. I direly love escape rooms, but at some point they're kind of being consistently the same as far as puzzles. Like you go into the one room and you have to put the letters together, like that Scrabble room. And I'm like, can we come up with something? But that would be really cool if only you are in the same room with the Dalek and the Dalek's telling you what to do. If that's the way that they're handling this. But yeah, put a Doctor Who theme anything here in the States as far as escape rooms, I'll go. I don't care how terrible it is or how rackety the TARDIS is. You agree with me, Kevin? Yes, we will. I will go. I will figure it out, and I'll be in the room going, yeah, I know what you're talking about there. So yeah, I love escape rooms when they're done well, when they really test your mental. But some of them are just kind of either way too confusing and too hard, or just kind of, okay, what's this all about kind of deal. And I'm hoping it'll make its way to the States someday.
And scarily, yeah, the last article I did have for today, Doctor Who will return with a festive special, Revolution of the Daleks. It says right here, Doctor Who will return for the upcoming festive season in a special episode entitled Revolution of the Daleks. The special, of course, follow up on the cliffhanger we saw at the end of the episode. Chris Chibnall had this to say, quote, "We can't leave the Doctor there on that cliffhanger." Well, we did, but rest assured the Doctor and her friends will be back for a one-off extended special around Christmas and New Year's. I don't know when they're going to put it on yet. Otherwise, we tell you. There will be Daleks, there will be exterminations, thrills, laughter, tears, the usual. See you all at the end of the year, end quote. So, is it just me, guys? Am I going nuts? But when you saw that prison at the end of this episode, they sent the Doctor to, and they faded back on, didn't it look a little bit like Shada? Am I just going nuts?
What's it doing these days, though?
Yeah.
What is Shada doing and being used for these days?
Shada! Oh, sorry. So
yeah,
that's all I got. That's all I had for the Who Knew News today.
And you know what the funny part is? If that cliffhanger would have been really intriguing if she was hanging onto an umbrella in the middle of an ice cave. Yeah. Brian, yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. All of Dragonfire is the only two of us can really appreciate that scene.
Oh gosh, the cliffhanger from hell. Oh
I'm
man,
sorry.
what were they?
Kevo, Melanie, I don't know if you've all ever seen Dragonfire. I've got to mention this. There was a cliffhanger, and it was a literal cliffhanger, and nobody understands why they did it. But the Doctor decides to hide. This is the Seventh Doctor with his umbrella, and takes the umbrella, puts it on a metal railing, and it's over like a big, huge chasm or cavern or something like that. And he literally goes down the umbrella, and he's holding there, and he's holding on for dear life. And then I guess whatever, the bad guy comes in and leaves or something like that. And then he realizes that, oh, I've really missed this, and he can't make the lip that's under him. And of course, Sabalam Glips comes in and just does his little routine there. God bless him. Is he still around? The guy who plays Glitz? I think he is. He's like he's in the 90s or something like that. If he's still around there.
Oh, you're burning out my brain. And
I know. But it is the worst cliffhanger because it was a literal cliffhanger that nobody explained as to why he did it, because he could just hid behind a rock or something like that.
They referenced that in The Name of the Doctor, right? That was one of the things Clara saw?
Yeah.
Yes. Because the Doctor was only a cliffhanger, so we're assuming that she actually went in there and pulled him back up again. I think that's what they were trying to do, was to kind of give it that little retcon going, okay, we'll do that there.
Yeah.
Right. Brian, what else is in the news today?
That's all I had for today. But like I said, I'd have died laughing if Clara like pulled him up on there and just whacked him on the head with the umbrella.
What were you thinking?
Where did that idea come from?
Like, of all the things you could have done to get away, that is. And not only that, do you think the Doctor, in his stature, as being as small as he was, he would have looked at the lip and go, I can't make that. But I'm going to try. Oh, boy.
That's another thing I've noticed. You notice how the TARDIS teams have gotten like consistently taller over the years? It's like, both him and Sophie Aldred, so we're about the same height. And then suddenly you go to like, the guys who are like 6 foot something tall later on in the series. It's like they look like basketball players compared to him. Like, so that's all I had for the Hoodoo.
For the Team TARDIS. The TARDIS team. Playing hoops inside the TARDIS room. All right, folks. Well, we got about a minute left there. So I'll go ahead and start off the TARDIS rating. So 1 through 10, Dr. Freedom, give me a quick number. What'd you rate?
I gave it a 10.
You gave it a 10?
I gave it 10 TARDISes.
Gotcha. Kevo, what'd you rate on the Time of Children?
Like an 8. A good 8, but an 8.
And Melanie, what did you rate Timeless Children?
I'm gonna go crazy here. I'm giving it a 5.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, when we get back, we're going to start with the lowest score. That will be Melanie there on the rating as far as the TARDIS is, and 1 being terrible and 10 being awesome. Melanie has a 5. When we return, we're going to continue to talk about the last episode of Series 12, The Timeless Children. I will never get it right. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, stay tuned in, and always become part of the legend.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper, and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop, George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good things always happen in springtime, from author Joanne Fisher, on Amazon.com today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth,
Unleashing hunters into the ruin wastes.
one young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal
Wonder and adventure
in the Scion series,
by Michael J. Allen.
beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basel, the host of this show. We also have Dr. Freedom himself, Brian Burress. We have Husbands Talking More or Less podcast, Kevo Risse of also Kid Rock Comics. Check him out there. And the lovely and talented director of our show, artiste Melanie Dean. And we've just gone over our ratings. Brian gave it a 10. Kevo gave it an 8. Melanie gave it a 5. I am not going to rate it.
You're not ready?
I am not ready.
That's fair.
And as we've been talking about this episode, I literally have 5 brains from 5 different hats going on. Classic Who, Big Finish, current, somebody who's kind of just looking at the show for what it's worth, meaning that they're just looking at it in a microcosm, not looking at anything else, not bringing in the history. And that person gives it a very high rating. But
I mean, give us all 5 of your ratings. It's your show.
Yeah, I can't. I would say if I'm looking at this, I'm just going to give it this. If I'm giving it a rating of all, I'm not going to give it a numeric rating. I'm going to say if I'm looking at it just as the episode itself, and if I'm looking at it as if there was nothing before Jodie Whittaker, if she was the first Doctor, and this was the series is going, it would be an extremely high rating. As far as the episode alone itself, I think it is a tremendously great episode. And I got to give a lot of that score to Sacha Dhawan. Did I get that right? Sacha Dhawan. I really think he owned up to the master like Michelle Gomez has owned up to Missy. But that was the only thing really carrying that score around from my lower half. The upper half was like, oh, it's a really good and it's a really exciting episode. But I digress. Melanie, let's start off with you. You gave it a 5, the halfway marker. And you didn't even cut a TARDIS in half. That's a good part.
No. I mean, I would even rate it just at... Okay, so the reason I gave it a 5 is because it's not bad. Okay, I am like just comfortably non-committal on this one. I'm comfortably indecisive. Not even indecisive. I was like, if I loved it, I would have given it a 10. If I hated it, I would have given it a 0. Oh God, I hate to say that. This is like an episode for me. I was just meh. I'm dispassionate about this episode. So I'm not, when I go onto Facebook and I see other people, either rallying, how much they love it, I can see and understand why they love it. Some of the people that really, really hate it, they're kind of more in that negative integers, and I don't see why they would hate it that much. Because I just think that they just need help and needing to understand that it's a damn television show. Move on. Okay, we get it. Jodie's a woman. I know you're never gonna like that. Just turn off the TV and go away. But the people who didn't, like, for me, it's not that I hated it. It's just certain little nuances. Like, I know and understand that people love Sasha's master. They adore him. I see what he's going with. He's really campy. He's really going for it. It reminds me a little bit of like the Delgado master, except he was ultra theatrical with camp. I'm not a camp person. It's just not, his master's just not resonating with me. I'm still really missing Missy. If I finally got where the hell does this master fit in? I might have finally liked this episode, so that might help me where I would rate him. I loved him as O, so it's not saying that I think Sacha Dhawan's a horrible actor. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. It's just this character isn't hitting me, and I just felt like the master didn't blow up Gallifrey as more as chewed every piece of scenery until it was just destroyed. But again, just me. I'm not trying to hate on anything. But I got a lot more questions out of this episode than anything. But I'm, again, not like dispassionate about. I'm very dispassionate about it. Just in a, okay, well, we'll see what happens next time. Or, oh, okay, well, they kind of retconned it, but maybe not, because they could always write different. It's just a lot of question marks. It's a lot of who. Finding out that the Doctor is the Chimeless Child. Okay, that's interesting. I'm intrigued. This episode left me intrigued. It did leave me, I look forward to seeing it. I'm not going to turn off the TV and never watch the show again. I'm not that person, but I'm just not also grabbing my pom-poms and singing the praises of this episode. It's just, it didn't strike a chord with me. So that's why I'm giving it a 5. It's not bad. It's not great.
It's not
it's
an
just
episode that
for me.
You don't think this is an episode that is like the catalyst. It's not the climax. It's kind of like the fourth or sixth episode, somewhere in the middle.
I think for me, the other episodes before this and before the last one where we finally met Koshamas, they were so good, and I was really on board with those. I was like 9s and should have given it a 10 on one of them. So those were really strong episodes, and I'm thinking the writing's getting really, really good. It's just this one, it didn't. The roller coaster went, and I was still kind of just there going, oh, damn it, I missed it. I just not feeling it.
What other negatives did you see in there, or something that you said, you know what, I wish they had focused more on this or expanded on this? Were there something
stuff I would have rather personally, I would have wanted less master. I'm very much in that feel of less is more and all that kind of stuff, but again, just me, that's it. I would have wanted more of that scene when she was that Inside the Matrix kind of thing, when she started talking to Ruth's doctor. I would have wanted more of that, because it kind of reminded me of our first 13th episode when she was talking to the frog, where it was race. I was kind of hoping for more there, but it didn't happen. I tried like with the season finales where they're trying to loop up a bunch of, tie up a lot of loose ends, and they're also trying to make as many loose ends as they can because they want to have a good cliffhanger and get you in for the next season. I try not going in there with a lot of expectations, but like that was one I was just kind of more disappointed in. I was kind of wanting more of that. I'll be honest, I was hoping we would have seen Jack. I really did. So maybe he's the one that goes and saves her from the prison. Come on. That's what I kind of hope. All right. But yeah, I can take retconning, and I could take changing the lore, and I could take all that. I have no problem. But I'm just not wildly, like I said, I'm wildly dispassionate about it. It's like if you ever watch Phineas and Ferb, and how Dr. Doofenshmirtz just doesn't hate Christmas, and he can sing an entire song, how much he just really can't hate That's me. I really can't hate this episode, but I can't really like it either.
Well, the thing is, the thing is that I had the most trouble with when starting series 12 was that when we got into this arc, when the Master could just simply walk into Gallifrey, blow it up, and I'm like, wow, we didn't really need the Time War. We didn't need centuries of Daleks and Cybermen. The Master could have just easily walked in and, just like he's walking into Macy's and go, we're going to blow it up out here. And I just like, to me, and like I said, it kind of cheapened the Time War for me. And I don't know about anybody else, but it kind of cheapened it just a little bit for me, because I know, Kevin, you're chomping at the bit there. But I mean, if it took centuries for the Daleks to wipe it out, and this guy could just walk in and he could have done it any given time, and he did it, and he just blew it up, and it was just like, this is the reason why? I mean, you could have done this any time. You were the John Sims Master, and you had a hard time taking down Rassilon. But I just like it. What?
I disagree with you on that one.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason being is we have to remember, this is Gallifrey when it was extremely vulnerable. This is after the Time War. The Daleks had literally kicked their butts sideways.
Right.
Gallifrey was undermanned. Gallifrey was literally hiding from the rest of the universe. So it was pretty easy for anybody who knew how to find Gallifrey to walk in and blow it up, especially a renegade Time Lord. So it's not like he could have done it at any other time. It's just that this time, Gallifrey was wide open.
I don't even know. They were in the Pocket Universe. Then the Doctor says, oh, they must have gotten smart and gotten out of it. I'm like, where the hell are we in this? I'm just like, what are we doing here? And I'm just like, but it's not the first time the Master has walked into Gallifrey and done his business. Trial of the Time Lord. Deadly Assassin.
Yeah.
He's walked in. He's walked into the Matrix. And that was one of the things I wanted to bring up. It's just like, you just found this out now. You've been in the Matrix before, and you didn't look at your best enemy's history. You didn't go through their website history and find, oh, that happened here.
Yeah, but that's like saying you don't find your keys when you look in the same place 3 times. He just didn't find it until this point in time. You're kind of arguing against the linear progression of the story. And, I understand it's a little bit plot contrivance that he didn't find it until now, but he talks extensively about how it was buried in the system. So it's not like they didn't account for it at all. And if you don't like the story, then sure. But they did try and explain why it wasn't found until now.
Yeah, but the thing was, in this particular case, in the Sixth Doctor episode, the whole reason why everything happened with Ravelox and all that was because the Time Lords were bearing secrets. So at some point, he had to go into the Matrix. They found the tapes that the Time Lords were hiding, and just like, you were there. Now, yeah, we could kind of go around this thing going like, well, we weren't looking exactly in there, but we were, now I found this. And when we get later on into the episode, yeah, I want to get more into that there. But yeah, Kevin, let me bring you in on this one. You rated it an 8. Tell me about your 8 and tell us what was the good, the bad, and the Jejun.
Oh, sure. I mean, I agree a lot with Melanie not loving Sasha. As much as Missy, I miss Missy, and I feel like a lot of Sasha's story really invalidates any progression that there was for the Master.
Yes.
Through the character of Missy. Nisha asked on her show last night, do you think the Master can be redeemed? And I was like, no, I think that killing all of the Time Lords because you found out that you were part Doctor is, after Missy and not accounting for the change in the character, way too far. And like, that can be cool. Like, I know what you were saying about being upset that he was able to destroy all of Gallifrey, but I kind of picture the Master up until now kind of like the Joker, who's always capable of doing more and like actually killing Batman, but enjoys the game, enjoys toying with him. But this was a thing that made the Master snap. I think because he's a giant man baby, but it made him snap, and that's why he finally did it. I mean, he is, because he found out that the Doctor actually. It's just he found out the Doctor was more special than him, like legitimately, than he ever thought that he was, and that was his reaction. And I think that it's very in character for the Master overall. I don't like that they pulled back so hard on Missy, but I've come to terms with it now, and I'm enjoying it. What was the other thing Melanie said? Oh, when you brought up the fugitive Doctor in The Matrix, I also really enjoyed that scene. I kind of wish we had flashed on other incarnations of the Doctor again, like just 5-second ones, because I think the thing that has me the most excited about this revelation is that there can be so many of them, not only going backwards because there's that whole mystery, but going forwards too. Part of the problem that Doctor Who has had is there was always going to be the regeneration problem. They were always going to have to come up with a new way to get more regenerations to keep going. Now the Doctor is sort of immortal. We can have an episode where it's just a Doctor for one episode and then regenerate again. There was always the risk of doing that before, of, well, now we have to come up with an explanation as to why he isn't going to stop regenerating. To me, the Doctor is mostly just that lone paladin with a horse figure, with the TARDIS being his horse. And as long as those things aren't really harmed, this just adds a layer to the Doctor and a different layer to the Time Lords. And frankly, just further pushes the Time Lords into, okay, now they can just be villains and we don't need to worry about it being like, but the Doctor is one of them. Kind of, but not as much.
One of the most disappointing things that I think they could have taken advantage of, I don't know if they could have done it there, is when she's in the Matrix, we see Joe's Doctor, and for a split second we see all the other the other Doctors, and I said, you know what, that would have been great, because she's talking to herself. Wouldn't it have been great to actually hear the voices of Tom Baker, Colin Baker, Peter Davison talking to her?
Yeah, like Rise of Skywalker.
Because she's in the Matrix, all the recorded stuff, she's in there. Why don't they just talk to her as if, and they're working it out together?
We'll do that next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll do that next year.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I was going to say, I agree with Kevo and both of you, actually, I think that Mind Blown section where they just did a really quick rapid fire montage. It would have been kind of cooler if they slowed that down a little bit more.
Yes.
Or even had that 50th anniversary kind of thing where they all walked up and there was the backs of all the Doctors just in the room, to really kind of have that mind blown thing.
If you're going to have a homage, play an homage. Brian, you rated this a 10, but we're going to get back to you after this commercial break. When we return, we're going to be talking more about the timeless children.
Yeah.
I slowed down there. When we return, please continue to stay logged on, stay tuned in, and always become part of the legend.
Now, on Amazon.com. iCoin from author Jeremy Mosby. It's an alternate reality, and the leader of the planet iCoin is none other than Benjamin Franklin. When corrupt officials threaten not only iCoin but the Earth as well, an unlikely chosen one, Jeremy, must face dark foes to save the Earth and iCoin alike. Author Jeremy Mosby takes readers on a superhero's adventure through this compelling and imaginative alternate universe. Get iCoin on Amazon.com today.
Jackie Sonnenberg's My Soul to Keep is a ghost story rooted in the realities of actual cults. When 13-year-old Sky Monroe arrives at her new boarding school, all she can think about is death and connecting with the afterlife. Soon she discovers her school's spirituality group, the Guardians of Light, and they have a secret. They can speak with the dead, and the organization is a cult. But this isn't Sky's only problem. The campus house where Sky resides is haunted, and even the ghosts have an agenda. They intend on getting the souls they want. Filled with mystery and intrigue plucked straight from the headlines, author Jackie Sonnenberg's research and attention to detail give this ghost story an even more eerie atmosphere. Find My Soul to Keep on Amazon.com today.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basel. I am the showrunner and the host of this wonderful radio show here. We're talking more about The Timeless Children, the last episode of Series 12 for Jodie Whittaker. With me again are Melanie Dean, Kevo Risse, and Brian Burress. Speaking of which, Brian, Dr. Freedom, you rated this a 10, perfect score. Come on. There was nothing bad about this. No triple half gainers. No nothing. There was Everything was perfect.
To be honest, yes, it tied up the entire storyline completely,
Okay.
including the Brendan thing, which turned out to be a screen memory, which I thought was brilliantly done. You know, apparently they tried to hide
wallpaper.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. It was set up to look like something insignificant, but it turns out it was. Plus the fact a lot of people are going crazy about this, but I'm like, the thing is, they left the solution so honestly vague that this could turn out to be a trick. Even the master could have been fooled by this. I've even had one person go, what if the Ruth Doctor's the Valyard and this was her way of covering her tracks? I've even had that go on, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is baking my noodle. This is something Doctor Who is supposed to do. But what really nailed it, music was beautiful. Seegan Akinola, right on point again. But also DNEG finally brought their A game to the CGI. I think that scene where the cyber carriers landed on the Capitol, that was so freaking awesome. It blew my mind. It's like just seeing that scene, you can actually hear crumble as it sits down. And then, the cyber masters
crunch.
And then the cyber masters, who I prefer to call the cyber lords because I think it sounds cooler. Come on, you've got that etched Gallifreyan work on the face plates. And what you didn't see, though, is on the robes they're wearing is actual new Gallifreyan symbols. I found this out because Ray Holman did a short video afterwards because he did the design on the new Cybermen with the spikes on the legs, the spikes on the shoulder plates. These guys look absolutely medieval, but then now you've got your worst nightmare. Cybermen that can regenerate. Now imagine if they get loose. Not to mention, what if they're also time sensitives? You know how much damage those guys could do if they had gotten out? But Sasha Dewan, beautiful performance once again. Now, I know a lot of folks out there are kind of, blowing their brains out crazy over, how does he fit into this thing? And it's very simple. The Master is kind of like Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, and like almost Freddy Krueger. Because we have seen him burnt alive, and yet, boom, he's back a couple episodes later. He looks perfectly fine. We've seen him get sucked into the Eye of Harmony how many times now? It's like he's a
bad penny of Time Lords. So
exactly. So at least in my mind, it doesn't really belittle Missy. And my point is, look, Missy was so clever that she had to have known, how she's going to die. She would have probably had that memory left over. And unlike some of our certain presidents, she had an exit strategy. She knew how to get around that. So, but the thing was, then she goes off. Somehow she finds this out, or after she regenerated, she found this out. And it was so mind-blowing that it finally tipped the master back to the dark side, so to speak. Talking about another galaxy far, far away. But so it all tied up really nice. It all made sense. Everybody was on point. They actually had all the companions contributing in a constructive way. And that's what I loved about it. It felt like I was watching a movie because the cinematography was so fantastic. The settings, especially the way they redid the Matrix Chamber, because for us guys, who are old enough to remember the Matrix Chamber way back in the day, like Invasion of the Time Lords, it was all kind of like Battleship Gray. They had to do the best they had with what they had. But now it's like, oh, it's beautifully lit. It's got all these ornate symbols. So the set construction was great. Like I said, Ray Holman on point with all the costumes, cyber armor, and all that. It just came together to make an incredible episode that not only made you think, but it also fixed a retcon that happened back in 1976. Now, a lot of people are unaware that in the brain of Morbius, you see a mind-bending contest going on between the Fourth Doctor and Morbius. Now, a lot of people assume those faces you saw after Hartnell showed up in that little window were previous incarnations of Morbius. But if you go back and read, I can't remember if it was Key to Time or something like that, it turns out those were supposed to be previous incarnations of the Doctor because the 12th regeneration limit didn't come in until Deadly Assassin. So it was always meant to leave it so mysterious as to actually how old the Doctor was. So Hartnell was never according to Hinchcliffe, Robert Holmes, and Terrence Dix, who contributed to the writing of that episode and setting it up, it was originally intended to increase the mystery of the Doctor by making you wonder if these are 7 or some other faces you've never seen before. How old is he really? What is he not telling us, the audience? And it's brought that back. It's not only retconned a retcon, but it's also made us wonder. Just once again, that big question, Doctor who is this person? Because if they weren't Gallifreyan or they were the basis of Gallifreyan society, the ability to regenerate in the first place, then where did they come from? Especially, literally the kid left on the intergalactic temporal spatial doorstep that somebody found. Plus the beautiful telling of the story of Tectewan. But here's what's really going to bake your noodle. What if it turns out that Tectewan, after a certain time, took on a new name of Rassilon?
Well, that's kind of the hint to it, because remember, if we're talking about Facebook, I'm sorry, Facebook, we're talking about it is an FB word, just reversed there. If we're talking about Big Finish and all those, it was Rassilon who set the precedence, and especially this is examined in the Trial of the Valyard, where, because it was the first time ever. I hope you guys get a chance. If you love Trial of the Time Lord, Trial of the Valyard is just mind-blowingly wonderful. Not only that, but they now question, why did Rassilon put 13 as the magic number? Why did they just hold it right there? But I digress there. Kevo, I actually thought the Timeless Child was Susan. Because there's really no explanation to Susan. And this is kind of where things go into because if Jo Martin, people were saying Jo Martin's the first Doctor, why does she have a police box TARDIS? Because it isn't until Hartnell's Doctor that ends up in the junkyard that we get to see the actual incarnation of the police box. And it was Susan, if we remember, we're going back, who actually named TARDISes. She was the one that said she came up with the name. So that's why
said it to a bunch of humans to look impressive.
But she said she came up with the name, which means TARDIS has been...
She said it. A teenager said she came up with the name. That's my point. That's all. She said it. That doesn't mean she did it.
Oh, don't play it.
He makes a very valid point, though.
Yeah, I know.
Or she could have just
assigned... I'm just kidding.
Or they could have been called TARDISes, but she was the one who came up with time and relative dimensions and space. Right. To fill in for the letters. Maybe that was it too. We don't know. But that's what I was hoping too. I agree with that. I was hoping the Timeless Child would be Susan or somehow tied to her.
But that's the thing. But okay, so the Doctor's a Timeless Child. What do you think? What was your thought process when you found out the Doctor was the Timeless Child?
I kind of I for some reason, since they at the beginning of the story, I just immediately assumed that Doctor was the Timeless Child. And I feel like going back and rewatching the clips, I better understand that I think the doctor was worried to find out that she was Tecteun, and that's why she kept asking what happened to the child. I don't think she ever suspected it, and I just never didn't suspect it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm still in Star Wars brain, so I'm thinking like Rey is the chosen one, so is the doctor. I don't know, but like I I'm fine with it, and I'm really fine with this concept that they've come up with. It really just feels like all they've done is expand the Doctor. I I don't think that they've done anything to invalidate Hartnell as the first Doctor. It's just Hartnell was the last reboot point for the Timeless Child, and now everything that happened since that the Doctor thinks happened to them did happen. It's just they don't realize that there are so many previous incarnations, and I am patient to wait to find out answers on all of these things because, it's been 15 years since the revival began and we just got this information. I think it was 10 years before we learned that Gallifrey existed in the original series or something like that.
Yeah.
So, or the 50th story was. But like, I'm really patient, but I sort of just assume this is just the Doctor has always been a pawn of the Time Lords who was used by them to carry out deeds that the Doctor ultimately rebelled against and stole a TARDIS. I guess the same one over and over again, which seems kind of silly, but why not? They're connected, and maybe we'll get an answer as to why someday. Maybe we won't. I don't really need it at this time. I am actually kind of relieved, even though I don't understand why, to see that the police box predates Hartnell, so that whatever makes the Doctor and whatever makes the TARDIS is something that predates all of this. So it's not something that we lose with this change. That had been my fear. Anything that we might have lost of the Doctor from this finale. And I don't think we lost anything terrible.
So do you think, going by what you were just saying, because I'm just picking up from the point, do you think the Time Lords actually, the Doctor thinks he ran away. Do you think the Time Lords let him run away, thinking that he ran away?
Maybe even, yeah. I think there's a lot of room to explore, for sure.
Okay.
Kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of questions. I was just funneling questions about things. The thing is, and Melanie, and I'm going to put this question to all three of you. The thing that I just have a big challenge with Chibnall is like, Chibnall, again, there's more than 3 Time Lords on Gallifrey, and there's a lot of material that could have been used again. I meant the monk would have been. I still to this day think the monk would have been a better suit, but I meant like Sasha really worked. I mean, one of the things I thought that Jodie was missing was that element to bunk off of her, because the bad guys have always been just really like, oh, whatever. But to have the Master come in and Sasha and Jodie work off and bounce off each other, I thought that those two were wonderful, and that's what she needed. That's something that I was lost in the last season, and without Sasha, I don't think. But where are the other Time Lords? Where's Rassilon?
We could have had
Omega?
Sasha as someone else, though. We could have had Sasha as the monk. So yeah, I agree with you. It didn't need to be the Master.
Also, the other point is that, sure, all the Time Lords on Gallifrey were wiped out, but what if some of them did escape? What if, the monk's still out there? We know the Master.
They are. That's the thing. And that's why I'm like, one of the device of blowing up Gallifrey didn't really do too much to me, because during the Time War, we knew that some of the renegades left. I doubt the Ronnie fought in the Time War. I doubt the monk fought in the Time War. I'm sure they ran off. So it's kind of like when the Earth blew up at the end of the world. It was like, but the humans have already gone. So even though we lost the planet, the Time Lords are still out there somewhere out there. But that's just my take on it there. Brian, your thoughts on the Timeless Child? And we got a minute left, so.
Oh, to make it quick, like I said, sure, there's a lot of folks out there who are a bit steamed about it, but at the same time, it also left a lot of new ground to explore. It brought back the mystery of the Doctor. Remember, we've learned only a few things over the last 57 years that we can say we definitively know about this character, but now after this, we're like, do we even really know who this person is? And that right there is the definitive thing that came out of this.
I know, Kevin, you got to go in just a second there, but I one of the things that I really impress upon this show, and you guys, we had a long talk about this. One of the things that I know you guys like about the show is that we try to become the center. You know, doesn't matter what extremes you are in what you believe in Doctor Who, what your passion is of Doctor Who, whether you like Jodie, whether you don't like Jodie. But one of the things that I do at conventions is I want to impress people to give it a chance, even though people have kind of ran off. To the people, Kevo, that you think that are still listening and just want some questions answered and just want to feel like they're still part of the Hooniverse, what would you say to them to say, hey, come back, just here's what I want you to do, because I tell people, give it a chance. What would you give as advice to people who may be kind of on the teetering front?
I mean, I would say I understand why you're scared. I was excited by it, but every now and then thinking about it, I stop and I'm like, no, this is huge, and I get that.
Right.
But I encourage people to at least give it time to see how they plan to play out. They said it was going to be a cliffhanger season. We know there's at least one more left. We don't know how much of this was the master lying and this is a fake out. It might be none of it. It might be half of it. It might be all of it. But I feel like because, as I said, the Doctor Who is mostly about the Doctor in the TARDIS helping people. That hasn't been lost. And so many of the things that people are afraid of being rewritten are things that were introduced slowly over time. Mm-hmm. And, it's not trying to dishonor that. It's just trying to build on it. And we should at least give it a few more episodes and see where it goes.
Gotcha. And I think I think people are just a little scared because this is kind of a sledgehammer to everything that's going on. Not meaning that it's a destructive thing. Meaning it's a game changer. Yes, everything was going to change as it's a huge change. And, like Captain Kirk said at the end of Star Trek 6, it's just like people can be frightened of change. And speaking of change, we're on a commercial break. Kevo, thanks for joining us there. And when we return, we're going to be getting there Melanie and Brian's take on the Timeless Children. When we return, please stay logged on, tune in, and always become part of the legend.
Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish.
Santa, if there's one thing I want for Christmas more than anything, it's someone to spend Christmas with. Someone who really wants me to be there.
Head to the mountains of East Tennessee with romance author Jenna Hart for a Christmas writer's workshop. Since her mother passed after a long illness, Jenna has had one wish. She doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. Meeting Niccolo Maldini, cover model and actor, could make more than Jenna's Christmas wish come true. Unless Ember, Niccolo's ex-girlfriend, does something crazy to stop them from being together. It's a mountain Christmas romance you won't want to miss in Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish. Now on Amazon.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final segment of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show, discussing the last episode of Series 12, The Timeless Children. Before we go on, I want to mention that, hey, one of our upcoming conventions, UFO Con, located at the Hyatt Regency at the Orlando International Airport. We're going to be there. The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS is going to be out there. Tickets are on sale right now at the UFOcon.com. That is the UFOcon.com. And that will take place in Orlando at the Hyatt Regency Orlando International Airport, April 11th and 12th. So please check it out. And of course, the Traveling TARDIS will be there. And definitely Melissa Kennedy, who hosts the UFO, the UFO Women, and Ghost Hunters fame, Grant Wilson. He will be there as well there. So check it out. And also keep an eye out on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS Facebook page and all of our social media. Be also on the lookout for the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS.com. It's going to be making its comeback coming around mid-March. We're looking at March 14th for its reboot. And it looks very, very well done. And if you are wanting to sponsor the website or the show, Please check it out. There's a contact information at the website right now if you want to just check it out. It's still in its beta phase, but it should be up and running very shortly there. So please check it out there. And thank you for joining us. Brian, I have a question for you, as I posed to Kevo. And Melanie, you're going to get that same question as well. But I want Brian's take. For all the fans out there who might be on the outskirts, who are just like, oh God, this is not my show. What happened? Talk him off the ledge. How would you bring him back?
The one thing you're going to learn after you've watched Doctor Who for a long time, even a short time, nothing is set in stone. Mm-hmm. Nothing at all. Matter of fact, let me see, just to give you a few examples off the top of my head. The Doctor didn't have two hearts until Spearhead from Space. Matter of fact, Gallifrey didn't even have a name until Time Warrior, which I believe was 1973, 10 years into the show. Right. The Doctor wasn't even a Time Lord until 1966 in the War Games.
War Games, yeah.
So it's constantly changing. It's always changing, always evolving. Matter of fact, for you older folks out there who remember, there was a time when the Doctor was stuck on Earth. The TARDIS didn't work. Imagine how social media would have reacted to that back in the day. What do you mean he's stuck and the TARDIS don't work? Are you nuts?
We're still on BBC budget too. That's why.
Oh, heck. Just to name a few off the top of my head. It's always changing. It's always evolving. Plus the fact, if you go back, and I just rewatched the episode and look at how many things that they left deliberately vague. This could easily be redone, retconned by another showrunner, or even they may even go into it next series, and it turns out the Doctor isn't the timeless child, and it was all a ruse. It's always changing, always evolving, and it always goes in directions you never expect it to.
Which is, I think, a lot of the criticism people are going on. It's been retconned, but if you watch it very carefully, and I caught it as well, the Doctor even says all the lies. So this could be a lie. This could be just that she's still, William Hartnell may be the first Doctor, and she's still the same Doctor that we know and love. There was just this storyline that was just brought in, but I guess that is one of the things that I was kind of worried about when they were going into this, because I agree with Andrew Cartmel on this note that the show is called Doctor Who. Why is it called Doctor Who? And Andrew even said when he was talking about the Cartmel master plan, you can actually find this on Wikipedia, that he kind of backed off on it. Because once you tell too much of the Doctor, once you give everything about the Doctor, the show's over. There's nothing else to it. The mystery is over. And he, our favorite alien, has to remain an enigma to us and to the universe. And I remember way back when, Melanie, Brian, you remember when Moffat got the third degree from the social media because we were going to reveal the name of the Doctor and the name of the Doctor, and everybody lost their stuff. But Moffat wrote a brilliant story where, yes, the Doctor has a name. No, you're not going to find out. And I was hoping for the same thing. I think that's what Chibnall was trying to do with this show, was that there is no limit, and there is. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to reveal my hand to you. All you're going to see are the 2 7-offsuit on the table. Mm-hmm. But do I really have a full house?
No.
Or do I have a losing hand? Am I bluffing?
One another point as kind of like looking back at the show, and I mean, honestly, as Brian was going on, I'm like, oh, my rating's kind of going up because I'm seeing more things I really do dig, because I'm kind of seeing more of the vagueness. And more intrigue. I like intrigue. The fact that every time while the Doctor was in the Matrix and the Master is going crazy, he kind of always knew where she was. And when he had to say, hold on, I got to go pop back in there, he was the one that was feeding her all the images. So who's to say that the Master's not lying? But on the other hand, how much of a swerve is that for the Doctor to find out all of these truths about her from the Master? That's actually really kind of cool too. So it's like we just got handed this really cool choose your own adventure book, and we don't have enough fingers to get to all the pages that say the end to make sure that we're going to the right one. So I have to admit, it's actually quite intriguing. So the more I and again, I'm not going to be angry at anything, so I'm just going to sit here and This is really kind of cool. My rating's going up, by the way. I do have a question though for both of you that I wanted to ask earlier while Kevo was here, but oh well. So, explain to me the regeneration for the bodies. So that the master was able to get. So if I remember correctly, and this could be another thing that we're just going crazy. We're just going to change everything. That's cool too. So if the body's already dead, doesn't that mean that they usually stopped? You could kill somebody before they regenerate. So how does the body still have the regeneration power in there, or did maybe the master lie and say that, oh yeah, they were bodies, but they really weren't. They were still alive. That's why they could still regenerate. The Cybermen, the Cyber Lords, that is. So actually, that part I just couldn't get is how do you have a dead body be able to regenerate if they're not already? Maybe he lied and they're not.
Right.
Dead.
Can I take a stab at this one for first? Yeah. Because the problem is the master on 2 occasions has ruined the regeneration. One time when he took over the anti-alien character, he just walked up and grabbed him and took over his body. And the next time we saw that snake in the 1996 movie, there seems to be no definitive line about how regeneration works. Now, in the 2 Doctors, we get introduced, there you go again, for the build-up, the symbiotic nuclei. That splits and splits and splits, and that's supposed to be the explanation of the Doctor's or the Time Lord's regeneration. But why Rassilon put the kibosh on 13 is because after the 13th life, according to lore, the Time Lord goes insane. Okay. So if you do it too much, the nuclei splits way too much, and the host goes completely nuts. And this is actually addressed in, of course, of all things, the Trial of the Valeyard, where there actually is a 13th Doctor mentioned in there, or could be, like you said, in the Master. If anybody, please, I got to get you a copy of that. Mm-hmm. But this is actually identify that. Now, that's the explanation of the regeneration. Now, yes, if I took the Doctor, threw her into a volcano, most likely she's not going to regenerate. Because all of that is wiped out. But Brian, if you want to elaborate on that, go for it.
Oh, about that. Well, like you said, he kept the bodies cool. So what I'm assuming was he might have just simply gene spliced the ability to regenerate into the organic matter of the Cybermen from the bodies of the Time Lords, which he was keeping on ice. But to me, it made more sense that he put them in some kind of stasis. So that way they could convert them while they were still kind of technically alive. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I'm kind of a hoarder. So I'm assuming he didn't kill all of them, that he actually just put them into some kind of stasis so that way they could convert them, to turn them into this nasty, creation, the Cyber Master. Like I said, I prefer Cyber Lord. It sounds more so that's probably what happened. But also what's going to bake your noodle is, remember Rassilon, that guy who left Gallifrey a little while ago? Mm-hmm. Had achieved perpetual body regeneration. So it kind of makes me wonder also, that's another theory that's been lingering in my mind. What if Rassilon did it to throw the trail off himself?
Ooh.
Which has always been the question, because even in the 5 Doctors, Rassilon would punish people if they even thought that they wanted to live forever. And that was the whole deal of the 5 Doctors, is just like, you want immortality? Fine. I'm going to lock you up in immortality. That's why, what was it? Barusa. What was Barusa? Barusa was eventually frozen up in there because it was Rassilon's joke, for a better term, to say, hey, you want to live forever? I can do that for you. And that's how Rassilon said, no, you're not going to live forever. So, yeah, exactly. There. Well, we got
one thing I want to just make.
Sure.
I was going to say, I want to make one quick final note before we wrap and whatnot. It was just, I have to admit that this episode has gotten me off the they can't do this, the can't train. You can't do that because you can't do that. It's now almost like it's making my mind go, how can they do this? And making you start thinking the ways something can be done. And I have to admit it's fun. So kind of think of it not as they can't do this. The doctor can't. How could the master? How can? So I kind of want to throw that to our listeners to kind of think of don't think of all the things that you can't do, but think of how they can.
So that's your advice to people who are kind of sitting on because right now after this episode, I got to admit, when I first saw the episode, I was kind of upset because everything that I saw was kind of, everything that it's my Doctor Who. It's the way that I've grown up, the way that I've seen it, and everything like that. And the best analogy that I could say is, and I related this to somebody builds an Italian restaurant in 1963. It's running for about a good 50 years. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes up and says, you know what? It's no longer Italian, it's Asian. We're serving Asian food. This is the way it's going to be. But you might enjoy it. Give it a shot. Tell us what you like there. And of course, you've got all the naysayers that are just going to walk away. No, I came here for Italian. That's what I want. I want Italian food. Bye. Thank you for playing there. There's some people who are like, oh, I love Italian. Let's do this. I wanted to change. We've always had Italian. This is something new, something brand new. Then you've got people like me who are kind of like, I kind of miss the Italian. Why would you take the Italian away from me? Why is this here? Can you explain it to me? And the hardest part is change about a show that does change all the time. And I think the hardest part is that we want to nail down things because that's what we are accustomed to. That's what we're used to. That's what everything is. That's the way our impression. That's our psyche. And I mean, growing up, that's the way it used to be. The Doctor has to be a man because it's always been a man. But for one moment, can you just look the other direction and say, could this be something different? Could this be something better? Could this be something unique? Why is Doctor Who one of the greatest science fiction shows of all time? Because it is about something to change. Change is not easy. And I embrace everybody to come up. And if you guys want to talk to me about things that might be disturbing you, because they're still disturbing me, believe me, I've got a whole list of things. Where was Omega? Where was Rassilon? Where is all of this? Because I feel comfortable about being nailed down in a foundation that was built upon. But what if one moment we take Doctor Who on its value and go, you know what? Let's look at something different so that we can run it for another 50 years. That's all I want you to think about. And if you can look at that way, let's talk. Because that's what we do on the show. We talk. And come up with ideas that we may have never explored before. Well, Melanie's telling me it's time to wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to continue to talk about more things about Doctor Who throughout the year. So always please stay tuned. Please stay long on. And always become part of the legend.